Hey, Patrick. Hey,
Good morning.
Good morning. Third straight year in your system. I think you bring back 9 of 11 starters, and one new one is Christian Wilkins. There's a lot of continuity here from what you guys built last year. Do you feel that where the starting point is this year is a little bit different than where it's been your first few years?
Each season is so different, and the players, it's great to have some of the leadership back and the signal callers. That's a positive in terms of the relationship that I have with them and them being an extension of me out there on the field. But does it feel different? Slightly, yes. But we know what we have ahead of us, and I'm excited about that.
Patrick, because of all the changes last year midseason, how much do you get to change your defense this year? I mean, obviously it worked really well, but you're known as a tinkerer.
I enjoy being in the lab, and with the players we have who have high football IQ, that embrace those challenges of the tinkering, I guess. It's definitely fun for me, and again, it goes back to each year's different, and if you try to stay the same, people will catch up, and then we'll get passed by. So there's definitely a little tinkering going on. We'll see, what sticks, and we'll put the best version of our defense out there, at the beginning of the season, and hopefully it keeps improving.
Part of that tinkering brought Tyree inside a little bit more as the year went on. Can we expect to see that a little bit more? And what are your observations of Tyree now that he's had an offseason where he can really devote all of his focus to football?
Well, the move in the defensive end inside, that's always been a part of just like for any rookie edge rusher, both for myself and for Robbie Leonard, who's our D-line coach, who does a great job. It teaches them to use their hands, and because they're dealing with a more immediate block from the guard or the center. So I thought that was really critical to Tyree's development. That's going to help him out on the edge. I've told you before, we utilized that before in the past, the different spots I've been. So that was good. And then with the whole offseason, he's doing what everybody else is doing. I want to single him out, but they're all working hard. They got a great kinship or camaraderie going on in that D-line room, and it's infectious, and it's spreading throughout the defense. And you can always feel those guys out there on the field. Whether you hear them or you feel them, it's a beautiful thing to see.
How big is it that Tyree's healthy, though? He doesn't have to worry about trying to rehab. All he has to do is worry about just football.
Good. That's an easy answer. I could, go on, but good.
So what does like a disruptive force like Christian Wilkins do to the middle of your defense, and really for everybody else in the defense do?
Well, Christian, the good thing about that, he's been successful in this league in the past. I was fortunate to be there in Miami his rookie year, and just to see the player he's developed into is pretty, awesome to see. And obviously that's another tool for us to use on defense that's going to be positive for us in terms of, I think he's someone that requires, multiple hands on him, or let me say more than 2 sets of hands on him. So that's a positive right there. You got him, you got Max, and then the other guys, John Jenkins, he's tough to block one-on-one. It's something that we preach with our defense. We can't get blocked one-on-one, and the more guys that you have that can, get that done and have production off of that, the better off we'll be in terms of our pass defense, run defense altogether.
Talk about how infectious that defensive line is in the development of Christian Wilkins, not just as a player, but as a leader. Have you noticed, or what are the changes you've noticed just in him as a leader and being vocal with the rest of that line?
Even when he was a rookie, I don't want to live in the past, he was vocal, he had leadership, he knew he was good. That's why he was drafted where he was drafted. And now you see it, he's just matured as a man. He just matured as a man, and not to say he was immature before, but it's just fun to see guys develop and grow. You drafted them for a reason. Whether it was Chris and Flo at Miami, they drafted him for a reason, to see him mature and where he's at in the NFL in terms of being one of the better players on the interior. It's just fun to see that development.
Patrick, when new position coaches are added, a lot of coaches make that decision, or general managers, but AP wanted you in the process. What did you like about Ricky Manning that really stood out to you as a cornerback coach?
Ricky, he comes well, respected in terms of his football knowledge, his energy, and, he played the position, been fortunate. I like the fact that we've had DB coaches, Jason Simmons, who's now at Washington, guys that've done it. Especially for me, who again, I've been more of a front guy my whole career. It's always a benefit for those players to have somebody that's done it. And I think players gravitate to that. Just like they did the last 2 years.
When you face the two tight end defense or offense, what kind of challenges does that present?
One, they could have 2-3-man surfaces. It's a benefit for us when you have an open surface. So when I mean open surface, a 2-man surface. That's a benefit. How are they going to deal with that? Especially when you have a player like Max or a player like Malcolm who's on the edge. Like, how are they going to account for him? Are they going to leave him singled, or are they going to bring somebody over? Once you go to 12 personnel, you got a chance to close both edges, which makes it tougher on the pass rush. Then the check with me run game that comes into play there. And then if you have the unique situation of having pass catching tight ends, one time the formation could look like traditional 12. Next time it could look like traditional 11 personnel. It could look like 21 personnel. So it forces us to go through a bunch of communication, and it's good to get that work.
I know it's a small sample size so far, but what have you seen from Richardson, and what are you looking for him to do to grow, to become a consistent contributor this year?
Like most rookies, has a lot to learn, but he is long, and he is fast, and he's willing to work. So those 3 things right there, I'm good. So those are positive. When you got somebody, so when you're long, fast, and you're willing to work, it's something to work with, but he has a long road ahead of him as a rookie. He just doesn't know yet, that's the only thing.
Along those same lines, Trey Taylor as a presence, I think, as a leader and as a player he has been throughout his college career. What have you seen out of him, and what are your expectations been for him at this level?
Just in terms of, again, I want to single out the rookies, but thankfully they've been all in here working really hard. And I believe that, his leadership is, whether he was a leader before or not, he's going to be forced into a leadership role as a safety. They got to make communication calls. They got to talk to the corners. They got to talk to the linebackers. They have to talk to the front. So interested to see how it plays out. This is day 2 of being out there on the field with the vets. It's going to be a lot different talking, to whoever it was at Air Force or when it was rookie mini camps, and now you got to make a call to Malcolm. You got to make a call to Spillane. These are grown men that, you got to say it with some authority, get it out, be right, or they might turn around and look at you crazy. So so he has a lot to learn, but thankfully we got, GA's a great coach, and he's working with those guys.
Patrick, you mentioned some of the younger cornerbacks and defensive backs, but Ja'Cory and Bennett went through that process last year, and there was some good, there were some struggles, typical of a rookie player. What did you see in terms of the growth for him and how it's kind of applied to where he is right now?
Part of it is just, getting the reps. You got to see it, until, you have these dreams of being in the NFL. You play high school ball, play college ball, and you get here and you just realize it's a different game. It just is. They're still tackling, blocking, all that stuff right there, but it's a different game. And seeing the route combinations, understanding that they're going to try to isolate you for the run game, with crack replace situations. So what I've seen is the film study. I've seen him ask the right questions. I've seen him narrow down what his focus is by stage. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and being able to really zero on that so he can improve his craft and then leading into training camp.
What have you seen as the biggest terms of growth with Malcolm Kuntz from the time that maybe you've met him till now? Like, is there a main attribute that you've really seen him develop?
For Malcolm, okay, 2 weeks ago, we were doing drills during the phase 2 process, and I was in the back of the D-line group, and I just saw him coaching up one of the younger players. And coaching them up with authority. It's like this, do that. Once you see that, that's showing command of his craft. And when you hear that, it just, again, I tell you guys all the time, as a teacher who happens to teach football, I was just proud. I was giddy. I don't know if a defensive coordinator should use the term giddy, but I was giddy. Just to see him do that. So now you're seeing a young man, developing true mastery of his craft, where he's able to go ahead and coach others up with authority. I was impressed. It's just the confidence he has right now.
Pat, last season, something a few players said pretty often is that you've been pushing them to not just be a good defense, but be a great one. What do you feel like you guys need to accomplish this year in order to make that leap?
Put in the work. Keep, extending the goal a little bit each day. I know all the guys talk about 1% each day. That's what we got to do. Just put in the work, keep pushing that line forward a little bit more, and we'll see how the chips fall. But that's the most important thing. And thankfully, we have a bunch of guys on the team who are high achievers. I like to think of myself as someone that wants to achieve high goals, and we set those goals and we do what we got to do to try to accomplish them. All right, thank you. Yep.
We're not very juicy today, are we? Huh? How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Luke, I know that this is an early part of the process, a process that's going to go on for a while. But when it comes to the quarterback situation, are there some traits that you're looking for in terms of making an ultimate decision? What's going to go into that?
Yeah, I don't think traits necessarily is the right word. I think, the evaluation of the performance on a whole. I think there's a lot of parts to it. I think it's the way that the operation, right, making sure we're taking care of the football, and then the production part of it. I think, like you said, this is a long process. We're at the beginning stages of it. Everyone trying to get a grasp of what we're trying to accomplish, not just the Qs, but everybody. And so the good thing is we got a good group in that room. Those guys work their butt off, and they're competitive, but they're great teammates too at the same time. So the beginning part of this thing has been a lot of fun.
Luke, people don't necessarily understand, you can't bring the Chicago Bears playbook here, different personnel, different team coaches, everything. So I'm curious, you didn't know that they were gonna pick a Brock Bowers. How much of your playbook right now do you think, are you still writing, are you still going over, are you still contemplating?
Yeah, I think, there's certain things that are kind of non-negotiable in your play style, right? And the mindset and that you want to bring, no matter what style of play you have to have. And fortunately, I've been around a lot of really good football coaches that have kind of exposed me to a lot of different styles of play and different ways of approaching teams and find different ways to attack the different styles of defense that we face each week. And so that's never going to change. And I think the part of our job is, you could go into week 3 thinking you have one style of roster, and week 4 you can be in a completely different, right? You just use that example. We had completely 2 different styles of QBs in Chicago, and you go into different games and you have different ways of playing the game, and so that part of it is all real. And I think the most important thing is find a way to maximize the type of guy that you have, figuring out what they do well, and that's what the phase that we're in right now. We're all trying to figure each other out and figure out what we do best.
When you look at a pick like Brock Bowers, how excited are you to have him in the building, and how much do you think you'll be able to complement Michael Mayer as well within 12 personnel and kind of, what they can do as a tandem?
Yeah, no, I'm extremely excited. I think, Brock's a unique guy. I think it's been said here plenty of times. He was probably the best player in the SEC for some time there while he was there. He won a bunch of games, and so anytime you could bring that type of caliber of player into your organization, you're going to get better. And you match him and you pair him with the talent that we already have here. I think that just makes you more dynamic. This league's about finding as many dynamic guys as you can get on your team. That's the goal. As you see the construction of all these teams in the league, everyone's trying to find those dynamic differences. And I think he's just one of those elements that gives us an opportunity to do a bunch of different things.
Luke, when you look at, speaking to the talent on the offense, when you look at Brock and Michael and Devontae, Jacoby, is this, potentially the most talented group you've worked with in terms of, weapons at your disposal?
It's a great group. I don't want to compare, really. I've been fortunate to be on a lot of really good teams, right? And Aaron won 3 of his 4 MVPs while I was in Green Bay, and that's not because of just Aaron, right? there was a lot of talent around him too, and so this is a talented group, though. We're excited to work with them, and like you said, it's going to be really cool to find different ways to make it all mesh together, though. We're really excited to work with everybody.
Mayor Mumford told us last year that he was more comfortable on the left side. I'm just curious, obviously Colton's the guy there. Mm-hmm. So how do you work with a young player helping them develop comfort at other positions?
Yeah, I think as much as anything, when you have comfort in knowing what you're supposed to do, I think that gives you the confidence to go out and execute your assignment at a higher level. And so, I think what's unique about Thayer is that he is talented enough to play either side, and he showed that last year, right? I mean, playing on both sides, starting on both sides, I think that's a really cool element that we get to have exposure to. And so that part of it is whether you have more experience playing on one side or the other, that's usually what that's a reflection of. Have more comfort, yeah, because you've done it more times. And so I think our style of play that we have and him have an opportunity to learn it right away now as we get into this thing, and him getting opportunities at one position will only benefit, and then he'll probably be saying the other way by the end of it.
One of the attributes you mentioned when you were talking about quarterback play was protecting the ball. I guess both from your philosophy and just your evaluation process of a quarterback. How do you balance protecting the ball with remaining aggressive and trying to find that balance where you're not just protecting the ball at the cost of maybe explosive play?
Yeah, that's a really important. But all those factors go into it, right? If you're looking at a Q and say they had 9 interceptions and 7 of them were at the end of a half at Hail Mary, like you just looked at the ratio and said it was 2-1, right? 18-9 or something like that. But let's evaluate the why or the how. I think that's what you get into. And then as you start to connect to the concepts and connect to the scheme and what your approach is and why you're trying to do what you're going to do, you start paying attention to the defense. And so now you say, okay, I know the way this hook defender is going to react, so I'm going to be aggressive to this throw. But when you're in those unknown worlds and you're throwing with kind of like uncertainty, those are the ones that you can't have. And so I think as everyone starts learning the system and learning what we're trying to accomplish with each and every play, then that's how you become more aggressive and more confident in what you're going to do. And then that's also leaning on your teammate too, trusting that they know what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing as well.
You've taken that deep dive into Aiden now in the last few months since taking this job. What is your evaluation of Aiden coming off that rookie season?
Yeah, no, I mean, to him to get thrown into the way he got thrown into and to see the adversity, I mean, I think it was like a 0. They didn't score, and then they go score all those points. I mean, that's a really cool reflection of the type of kid that he is and the approach that he brings. I mean, there's one thing that I would definitely pat him on the back for at this point is just the willingness to be taught and willingness to be vulnerable in this opportunity to get better. I mean, it's really cool to see a guy who's had success now really excited to learn some new stuff.
I know it's early in the process, but what have you thought about the running back room led by Zamir White?
Yeah, I think it's a really cool group. I think you have guys kind of have different backgrounds, different styles. But like I say all the time, I think I've said this too many times in my career, this isn't the time of the year for backs, right? Backs got to put pads on, and then that's really when you find out. And so, yeah, it's fun to see them, and they're fast, and they look the part, and they're getting better out there all their assignments. But we know that those types of players, when they get the pads on in training camp, that's when you really start to find out how much you really like that group. But I mean, they're a really good group of guys. They work hard. They work together. They're competitive with each other. And then, like I said, there's explosiveness in the group. There's pass catching in the group. There's toughness in the group. So there's a really cool blend of guys in that room.
Coming in as a new offensive coordinator, how important is it to get some of these veteran guys here for the non-mandatory OTAs to try and get as much installed as you can now?
Yeah, I think it's important to lay a foundation, and that's really, like I said, if we can establish our style and the brotherhood that we have in that room, we're gonna be just fine. And the schematic part of it is the second element of it, right? Guys got to be comfortable being able to react to things that happen, because the reality of it is we prepare them and we say it's going to look like this and we called it for this, but there's often something that's slightly different. And those repetitions that you get with one another, that's how you become elite.
Hey, Lucas, to Sean Reed from The Athletic. It seems like you guys have a few different players on offense that can line up in multiple spots, whether it's Devontae or Brock Bowers or Michael Mayer. As offensive coordinator, how much flexibility does that give you to kind of get creative and switch around your alignment in the pass game to try to take advantage of matchups?
Yeah, that's huge, right? Because if you, again, just looking across the league from a defensive perspective, everybody's trying to do that on defense too. They want the DN that can rush and cover. They want the linebacker that can rush and cover. They want the nickel that can fit a B gap and guard a slot. Right, so everyone's trying to find that, and same thing on offense. We're doing the same thing, and the more flexibility you have with a player, that gives you more opportunity to do a bunch of different things. And then the second part of what you said is that the more people that you can have that can do those things, that's when your offense can get really good. That's when you have three different guys that can run one route, or three different guys that can do one type of concept. Now you're putting fear in the defense in a completely different way.
That's it.
All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.
I think it's our first time talking to you since the rule change with the kickoff became official. I guess what was kind of your initial reaction to it, and how is that revamped your overall strategy to teaching the play coming in?
Excitement, number one. Very excited. The players are excited. If you think about it, last year in the Super Bowl, just use that as an example, 13 touchbacks. Now it's going to be 13 balls to return. So returners are excited. Their value is going to skyrocket. So, for example, you're a kick returner. We can give it 2 back there, but let's just make it easy math because it's easier for me. If you have 1 back there and you kick off, you get 80 kickoffs, that guy's going to touch the ball 80 times possibly next year, and he's guaranteed that. Where, before it's only your best receiver or your halfbacks that are guaranteed touches. This guy's going to get 80, where last year we got 11. So the value skyrockets. The value skyrockets for the position players because now they're covering every rep. So the leading tackler in the league is going to probably go back to the early 2000s, 36 tackles on special teams, whereas it was only 16 tackles this last year. So their value goes way up. As coaches, naturally we want to play every play. So there's going to be 10 plays a game, 5 kickoffs, 5 kickoff returns that are added into what we're grading, what we actually have to play. We can't have the out of kicking the touchback anymore. Or you're going to get the ball at the 30 and you're going to give up big drive starts. So we love that part of it, because now we're going to cover every rep. We get a chance to return every rep and got to shed, block, tackle, and teach.
Tom, you're in a kind of a unique situation as a special teams coordinator. I don't know if there's a comparison to that, but you have to figure out how to advance it as a return team, but then also cover it as a coverage team. So you have to figure both sides out of it. Can that help, from seeing it from one vantage point, help from the other vantage point and vice versa?
There's no question. What we've tried to do is, really this last week and even in the first 2 weeks of the off-season program, let Daniel try to beat our returners. And when I say that, he's trying to put balls on the ground or he's trying to put balls in the air, and really you're just playing in a 20-yard rectangle. So if he can hit the 19-yard line one play and then the 1-yard line the next, you got returners and they don't know where it's going to go. And we can go when the ball hits the ground. So the difference between the XFL and our model is we can go when the ball hits the ground and we're back at the 40. That's your advantage on kickoff. The kicker becomes more valuable also. Because now if he can put the ball at the 2 edges of the rectangle, you got a chance to get much, much better. And we've learned a lot from our returners. Because our returners all of a sudden are beating him. And then the next day he beats them. So we are finding out where to align these guys to get to the edges of the field, talk coming back to the middle, and so on and so forth.
With all the changes in special teams, Tom, do you have to go to AP and maybe ask for some more special time in practice, just because there are so many changes?
Yes, but you got to be careful about, running their legs out, so on and so forth. But the biggest thing is for example, let's say I kick off and it goes here, right here to you, okay? That's the point of attack. We have to win on kickoff cover here, okay? The backside's still at the 40-yard line, so we're long ways away. Your point of attack, wherever the ball's kicked, these players are very, very important on kickoff cover. They're also important on kickoff return. So it's one of those where the biggest thing he's given us is we get walkthrough time that's built into the practice at the end so the players can visualize it. Because this is new to them. It's new to everybody. They've never done it. It's very awkward to watch a ball hit and then be able to go. And just remember, within this play, what we wanted to do is take away space and speed. So the 25-yard run is gone. And if you really think about what's the biggest difference, just remember that last year at the 40-yard line, guys are going 19 to 21 miles an hour. We're going 0. We're going 0. So we're starting at nothing, and you're right there. That's about 5 yards. You're waiting there to block me, so the collisions are at 7 miles an hour versus 19 to 20. So it's a big difference.
Who are you anticipating your blockers reading to understand when they can go? Because they're going to have their backs to the ball.
To be upfront with you, the blockers are going to have to go when the kickoff cover team. And when I say that, just imagine if you're looking back and I kicked off, and you stay looking until he catches it, and then you turn. I'm already gone, and you're not gonna be able to see me. It's like trying to fight somebody, and you're turned this way, and they're right here. You're gonna get, probably gonna lose that. So I'm gonna have to go when you guys go. Okay, and you really watch their feet, so on and so forth, and you're like, well, what they could do is they could drop down into a stance, little things to try to get you to false start. So there's some different things going on in the league.
Talk about, learning from the returner, some of what you have to do on the kickoff and that sort of thing. How much do you expect this to be an evolving process all season long, where, you're still looking at things and evaluating all?
I'll be honest with you, 100% of the season. Because we're going to steal ideas from other people. It's brand new. It's something nobody's ever done. You're going to steal from each other. You're going to steal leverage from each other. I think it'll go all the way through the Super Bowl on the last play.
Do you like it?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
You are known as kind of a tactician when it comes to special teams, so when they change so much, does that just, I hate to use this term, but it's meant as respect, you are the nutty professor of special teams, does that just make you excited with all the things you can come up with?
Yeah, it's just, what it comes down to is preparation. Great players, they prepare. And so if I want to be great, I got to prepare, and I got to come up with the answers before they get here. And then the answers that I think I have that are wrong, I have to be a teammate and say, hey, we're not doing this because this ain't going to work. Let's move the returners to this spot. I'll be honest with you, originally where we had them at the beginning of the off-season program is not where they're at right now. And I love that part. I learn from the players. They'll come over and they'll say, hey, Tom, don't put us here. Put us here. We can get to these balls. And Daniel will say, yeah, let them go there, and then I'm going to do this. And then we can, so I like that part of it.
We talked about maybe extra practice time and how that could work out. What about in terms of selection of players that are going to be on special teams? Is there more of an emphasis on that of, hey, these guys are actually going to have to make plays every single time. We're going to have to talk about who's out there.
Yeah, I don't know that there's more of an emphasis. There's always been, and I'm just going to speak in this building, there's always been a great emphasis in the 2 years I've been here that they, we spend a lot of time on what players, can help us make the plays. But to answer your question, I think on kickoff return, I think you're going to need a little more length. And when I say more length, it doesn't mean that a corner can't do it, but you need somebody with a little bit longer arms to sustain the blocks. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit more length from a kickoff return standpoint. Other than that, no. You're only going to be able to address, and I think you guys all understand it, you got 3 tight ends, you got 5 linebackers, you got maybe 4 safeties. You got to find those guys that can win at the point of attack. And then if Will's a great backside player for us, who can be that backside player? But you need 2 of them so that they don't know where you're going to kick the ball at every spot. But you have to mix and match because you can't just, let's dress 7 linebackers. You don't have them on your roster.
Kind of went under the radar last year, but DJ Turner really turned himself into a pretty darn good special teams player. Mm-hmm. What does that say about him who, kind of came in here, I'm sure aspirations to be a wide receiver, which I'm sure he still wants to do, but figured out hey, this is going to get me onto the field and I got to maximize this.
Trust. Simply. Trust himself. Oh, he trusts himself. DJ doesn't say a word. DJ just goes, and if you tell him to do this release, he does that release. But he knows he'll succeed by doing that release, and he's seen it on tape, and love DJ.
How much has Daniel embraced, having to learn all these ways to make it good?
It's competitive. He's competitive. He wants to beat the returners, every single day. I'm going to go out there, and I want to be 10 for 10 if we have 10 kickoffs. I don't want him to touch a ball. I want it to go into the end zone, and I want to get a 20-yard line drive start. Or I want them to have to come up and it hits and rolls and we're going as the ball's on the ground, give that kickoff team an advantage. But he loves the challenge.
So Tom, just for clarification on the rules, if he kicks it out of the end zone, they get it at the 30.
Yes, sir.
But if it hits the ground and goes through the end zone, it's the 20, correct?
Yes, sir. But you have to down it. That's the other thing that is brand new in this league. It's a live ball. They haven't had a live ball in this league in a long time. So if the ball hits and it stops in the end zone, used to be dead because no one's touched it, you got to go down the ball. The only time a ball is dead is if it goes outside the rectangle. When I say the rectangle, the white lines. Out of bounds, okay, or through the end line, then it's dead.
Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing his name, but obviously with all these, special teams rules, you drafted Dylan Live, who's a special teams unit, kind of the ace, in the FCS level. What do you think of him so far?
Strain. That's it. Strains. You strain, everything's going to take care of itself. He strains. High, give a darn meter. He strains. He's going to be just fine. He strains at every single thing he's trying to do. It's that simple. One word.
Just to go back, is the ideal scenario then landing it in the rectangle and rolling it out of the end zone?
There's some scheme there. I think that the biggest thing is from a rectangle standpoint, if I'm a returner, you want me to have to use the whole rectangle to get to the ball. You know what I'm saying? So there's times you could possibly pin him on the 15, which would be better than a 20-yard touchback. But the kicker's got to make this guy play the top 19-yard line to the 1-yard line. You don't want a lot of balls. For example, if I catch a ball at the 10, we just gave him 10 free yards. If we get a ball in our hands at the 15 free yards. Now, if they get it at the 15, but it was rolling and stopped, we just got a head start on them. Okay, so what you're really looking for is the differential between when the ball hits, okay, and when they get it in their hands. How much time did we get down the field before he actually gets it in his hands? Like if you get 1.5 seconds, that's 10 yards. And he hasn't got it in his hands yet. So there's some different things to look at.
I apologize, this is gonna be an ignorant question, but I'm ignorant. So with Daniel, does he have to change the way he kicks? Cause before it was get it up and get it out. Now it's.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, you're not trying to hit
trajectory.
touchbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the hang, just to be cutthroat with you, the hang time doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, if he hits a 1 second ball to the 1-yard line, love it. If he hits a 1 second ball to the 19-yard line, love it. If he hits a 1 second ball to the 10 outside the red line and it bounces and goes in. So the faster a ball comes, the quicker these guys got to react. When it's in the air, I got more time to get underneath it.
So in describing it, is it be like a pitcher learning how to pitch a new pitch?
No, because these guys have all this stuff in their repertoire from before. Yeah, you would hit line drives before in certain situations. You would hit, balls to the 1 versus balls that are short, which we used to call mortars. So it's all there. It's just, it's a different gig now, knowing that they're going to return every single one.
We got time for just one more, guys. All good?
Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Coach.